Well, I have known this guy since he first arrived in America driving an Indy Lights car with his fellow Brazilian by the name of Helio Castro Neves. And along the way, he has won the hearts and minds not only of me, but thousands of IndyCar fans. He's kind of become shall I say, the standard bearer for what IndyCar passion should be all about. You know, we're talking about my co host on SiriusXM's Brick by Brick, TK Tony Kanaan. TK, you decided to cut back on your IndyCar schedule, and in the meantime, you have increased the amount of racing that you're doing in assorted disciplines. Kind of outline for my listeners what the last year to 2 years has been like for Tony Kanaan.
Well, I mean, Jack, it all started when I decided I was gonna do like I was gonna cut back on the IndyCar schedule, but then I was gonna open up for some other things. But one thing led to the other. I mean, Jimmy and I got together 2 years ago to do our little project that you guys are all aware on the IndyCar side. I would do the ovals. He was gonna do the road courses. Then last year he decided that this year he wanted to do the whole thing. So I kind of cut back just to the 500. But in the meantime, I got an invitation from Tony Stewart to run his new series that him and Ray Abraham were building 2 years ago, the SRX. That was the first guy they called because it was the right timing when I announced that I wasn't doing a full schedule in IndyCar. Great, I'll do that and the ovals for IndyCar and we'll be set. And that was going to be already 11 races, right? So granted that the IndyCar schedule, it's what, 13 races, no, 16 races,
16 to 17, depending
16
on
to
what year.
17.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, close enough. 5 last, I have time to do a little bit of a more workout, a little bit of my triathlons. And so I picked up to do the Ironman in Kona, the World Championship. Then I get a call from Rubens and his team owner down in Brazil, inviting me to race the stock cars in Brazil. It's the V8 supercars that people there are not familiar with, and that's 12 races. And I said, we might be able to do that, but obviously Brazil once a month. People that follow our podcast on the other side know that sometimes every Wednesday I'm down there every other Wednesday. So it became 12 plus 6 plus 5. Then all of a sudden, I got an invitation to do a Porsche Cup, 3 Porsche Cup endurance races. So it's 20 plus races. It's more races than I've ever done. Even back on the Champ Car days that we used to race 20 races a year. So then we picked up the podcast, and it's been going really well for us. And then it just escalated from there. But we're surviving.
But along the way, that assortment of disciplines, I wonder, TK, how has that made you a better driver?
I'm just driving more than ever. A better driver. I'm not I think the driving skills, you always have it.
Well, that's the racecraft.
Right. The racecraft. But I feel like the old timers that you drive a completely different car every weekend. I mean, every time I get in a car, I got to actually let me think where the buttons are. Where do I start? What dash it is? So that's something that definitely I've never liked that, Jack. I mean, for 20 plus years, I didn't want to do anything about anything else apart from IndyCar. Yeah, we did the 24 hours of Daytona, but that was one race a year. And the beginning of the year, it would mess me up. But from one week to the other, I hated it. And it was so stupid on my part because I'm enjoying it and made me better because you have to adapt much quicker. Yeah, maybe the first 4 laps of the session, it's not ideal, but I mean, yeah, it made me a better driver on that matter for sure.
When I talked about my guest list for this episode, I hearkened back to your 2013 Indianapolis 500 victory and recounted the story that you have shared in previous appearances here, that it came at a time which was probably the most unlikely time. But now let's fast forward to 2022. You get one start with Chip Ganassi Racing, and that is in the Indy 500. compare and contrast the two, because I had the luxury of witnessing that race this year from your pit area. When you got out of the car, it was almost a mixture 50-50 of joy, but also sadness. And I hearkened back to the way when you get out of the car and you won the Indy 500. How are they different? Were they similar?
Well, like it was a great result.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, man, that was awesome. Then you look back and you go, wow, every year that it goes by, it's one last year, and this one, obviously, it's a reality. My deal was done after this year. My deal is done. Yes. Am I going to try to do it again? 100%. But there was like, it's over. Should I enjoy it? The third place now. I almost won that race, or do I, as a human, you worry about next year already? It's like the end of the party, right? So, but one thing I can tell you that it was awesome was the feeling that I still got it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's still, no matter what people say. I mean, we're fed by results, and when you don't have a good result for some years, you doubt yourself. That's normal. That's human. Um, it happens to anybody at any job. It happens to you when you don't have a good show and you go, am I getting old? You try to find an excuse or a reason why this is not going well. And the only way to bounce back is to get back, do another show or drive another car, or the same car, right? So, and then I had an awesome result. So I was like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. All those rumors and comments for the people that have nothing better to do or just want to stir stuff up. That was the feeling. It was like, I can't do it. Man, I almost did it again. And how can I do this one more time? And that's the plan, Jack. I made no secret to anybody that I want to go one last time, and that's probably the real one. Now, my wife just asked me that. What about if you go one more time and you win? I said, well, then you need to come back.
Of course, of course.
Right? I mean, but the plan is to try to get. I have nothing right now. Chip has a lot more problems to think about than actually Tony Kanaan doing a one-off. But I think that result helped a lot in many ways. You were there. You're in my pit box. You saw how happy. I mean, you witnessed, like, not just as a friend. You're there. You're the second person that talked to me after I got off the car. So I think we impressed a lot of people. Not that you're gonna say, "Wow, after all these years, you still have to impress people." Yes, you do have to do it every time. So chances are good, but as of right now, I have nothing.
You alluded to the fact that Chip's got a lot on his plate right now. Now, of course, the obvious, we've been following it on SiriusXM brick by brick. It's now gone into litigation, and that's where will Alex Palou and how will Alex Palou handle 2023? So I don't really want to spend a lot of time on that. But I think his plate is even fuller because there are other issues. What about Jimmy Johnson? What about, securing the sponsorship there? What about the mix of drivers? And more importantly, what about the team dynamic? Because while you've got a situation where you all kind of complement each other, and Chip always says, assorted teams, but one common goal. Is this a glimpse into the future, not just for CGR, but for all the major teams that have multiple cars? That there's so many moving parts that it takes a staff of full timers just to try and figure out who's going to be matched with what.
I think uh, it's a lesson for all of us to learn. It's becoming like a habit. Look what happened in Formula One as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Just a few days, like people announce teams announce drivers, and then drivers come out and say no. So I don't know, Jack. It's been a transformation, and like everything, right? It's you you never know the real truth. Now, dynamic at Ganassi right now, teams like one team that, I mean, I can assure you it's a mess. And then And I'm not saying that because I'm in there. Look from the outside, there is no way. There is no way that Dixon is not happy with the situation. It's disrupting the team. He's the team leader. He needs to take that situation, and Chip wants him to take the situation in his own hands. Uh, they just lost a championship lead, not to even to Newgarden, which is the guy that I think has the most.
Right. Yeah.
No disrespect to Will, but Penske's there, so that's their championship right now, in my opinion. It's their championship. It's Ganassi and Penske. It's disrupting. It's a lot of distraction. As much as you want to say on a championship like this that it's so hard, you need to minimize the distraction. It doesn't mean that at my championship I had distractions, but not like that. And that is, it affects the guys because well, we're not worried about. Yeah, but we're talking about it. That's a distraction, you know. And what's I wonder what's the atmosphere when you're suing each other, and you have to. I mean, the trucks are the trucks, So to me, it's a new era of things, and then I think it's for us to get used to not be careful what deal that you sign. Teams also on the team side, don't pull us around and push us around like you guys used to do, and look what happens, right? So I think. I see it both sides, Jack, and then I think it's not right. But I think after all this, we'll learn a lot more, and I think deals are going to get put it in place in a lot better ways. There was always, as a driver, there's always options. The team will give you an option, but when a team it's very successful, or a driver is very young, people try to take advantage of that. If Roger Penske says, I don't know, let's pick a young kid and says, you want to drive for me, but I can't pay you. This kid will go, yes. But then that actually puts Newgarden, McLaughlin, and Power in a tough spot, because when they get to renew, and the Penske is going to go, I'm not going to pay you $2 million because we're winning races. I'm going to pay you $500,000. Wow, but I'm more. Yeah, well, if you don't want it, Jack Arute is going to come here to drive for free. So that's kind of sad that people use that, but that's human nature. That's any business. It's like that. So hopefully we'll come out of this situation better, and both team owners and drivers will learn how to make probably better deals and not pull each other around.
Listen, I've said it oftentimes, and I consider you probably one of my few real true friends. I appreciate your swinging by here. We've got to get ready, though, for our other side hustle, which is our weekly edition of Brick by Brick. TK, just always, I don't ever want to see you retire, but I know you're going to have to sooner or later.
It's going to happen. And then obviously, I'm okay with it. It's just, I get it. And I love you for it. I know having you there this year for me was awesome. I mean, we had so much history together, but it's going to get to a point that maybe, we'll just keep doing this what we're doing right now. Hopefully we won't starve to death.
Well, exactly. You never know. And then the deal is we can both ride off into the sunset. Let's just not set the date, okay?
Sure. There is no date.
All right. We will continue here on Wind Tunnel after we take this quick timeout.